the top story tonight that the US Congress has overwhelmingly voted in favour of new legislation that would ban TikTok unless its parent company ByteDance sells it to non-Chinese owners within 6 months. Let's bring in now the co-founder of Internet 2.0, Robert Potter, who is a cybersecurity expert who has literally led the world in investigating TikTok and the security concerns behind it. Robert, thank you so much for joining us live from Washington. You're obviously there to speak to members of Congress and senators as well as this bill is going through. Can you just tell us, for those watching, TikTok, the most popular app with young people, what's actually wrong with it? What are the main concerns?
Well, the main concern in this bill is who owns it and what they can do with it. So TikTok's got a bit of a history of using the app to censor journalists and track journalists that it's interested in that are writing stories about it that it doesn't like. It's got a history also of promoting China's influence on the application. And it's never been open about how it promotes content and which content it promotes. So, for example, we've seen that it's pushed a lot of pro-China narratives, as well as suppressing a lot of anti-China narratives. So you won't find a lot of open conversations about human rights in China on the platform. Now, Congress has taken issue with that because it's not because of how big TikTok has become. It's now become a massive problem given how a significant percentage of the American population gets its news from the platform. So because of that, it's now run foul of the Congress, and the Congress has set up a new mechanism to force TikTok to leave China or face a ban. One of the main issues there is because it's a Chinese-owned company, it's subject to China's national security legislation, which means it has to cooperate with China's espionage laws. And through this process, we've seen the investigation go through Congress, and a lot of people have come forward some pretty horrific stories about how the app is used and the degree to which the CCP has control over the platform, up to and including having a representative on the company's board. Now, the Americans are not going to live with that going forward. It's passed Congress with a really high percentage of the members voting in favour of it. It went through in a week. It's one of the fastest turnaround bills that I've ever seen. And it just reflects a consensus in America that something needs to be done about this ahead of the election.
And we'll come back to in a minute whether you think it's going to pass the Senate. But the two main concerns there are foreign interference from the Chinese Communist Party, also their collection of user data. I had National Senator Matt Canavan on my show a bit earlier, and he said that he's had a close look at the legislation and that it didn't mention TikTok at all, and also that it gives the US government the ability to use these laws to force any company to divest its ownership structure. Is that accurate?
No, that's not accurate. It does mention TikTok explicitly in the bill and in the notes that were given to the members of Congress. TikTok actually complained about that. They said it was specifically targeting them because they're mentioned in the bill. That was one of their complaints. The other thing is that it doesn't give any power to the United States president. The adversary countries that are in the bill are determined by Congress, and it's very difficult to get Congress to agree on just about anything in the United States. They can't even pass a budget. But there are 4 adversary states that are named. The countries are North Korea, China, Iran, and Russia. So it's very unlikely that any of this would ever end up applied to a US company because it's just not within the structure of the bill. Now, but it would apply to other applications like WeChat, which everyone who studies that app has similar concerns that they do towards TikTok.
Now, you've been speaking, as I mentioned, with US politicians. What are you predicting will happen when it does go to the Senate?
It seems to be the case that it will have the numbers to pass the Senate in the same way that it has the House of Representatives. The question is when a vote will be scheduled, and Schumer, the majority leader, has been waiting to see what happened in Congress. And everyone has been surprised in the last 24 hours just how fast this issue moved. The Republican Party voted almost unanimously in favor of the bill, in spite of the fact that their presidential nominee came out against it. So this is a fundamental change in the national security alignment of the Republican and Democratic parties on this. And it would be hard-pressed to see that momentum would be arrestable at this point because President Biden has already come out and said that he'll sign it.
Yeah, he has indeed. Just before you go, what do you think of the Prime Minister here, Anthony Albanese, today saying, oh, well, we're independent, we're not going to follow America, nothing to see here, a lot of young people like using the app?
I think that we clearly don't want to be moving first on this. I think we moved first on Huawei, and the Prime Minister probably a bit concerned about the sheer amount of retaliation we got from China on that. So I think we're definitely going to have to follow the Americans on this if they pass the law, because this is going to become basically an international norm. I think it would be really hard pressed for countries like Australia to continue to allow TikTok to operate in the United States after what we're going to see, which is going to happen in the next few months. As if this bill passes, it'll be massive legislative effort in the United States. It'll be a huge amount of campaigns through the courts. TikTok is going to take the Americans to basically every court that they can get. And the fight will be very public, and it's going to be very hard for Australia to stay out of this debate.
Yeah, all right. Look, I don't know if you actually want the credit for this, but a lot of what we know about the security concerns from TikTok is thanks to your research and your cybersecurity work at the back end. So this, is obviously a big outcome for you as well. Robert Potter, thank you for joining us.